Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Prabhupada ki jai. Alex, do you think you could just move this, please, here? Oh, the seat seems a little far back. So, yes, thank you all for attending tonight, the Sunday festival. I'm just going to move this seat. It's too far back. You move that now? All right, that's a little better. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here with all of you. So tonight, I thought we could discuss part of this book called The Nectar of Devotion. So this is a very important book, most important book. And it is a summary study. This is a book written by our founder Charya here, Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And it is a summary study of another book called the Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu, which the English version or the English translation of the Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu is the Nectar of Devotion, or the ocean of the Nectar of Devotion. So it's a Sanskrit work written by Srila Rupa Goswami, one great teacher in this line. And Srila Prabhupada, at the bottom of the cover here, he titles it The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga. The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga. So what Rupa Goswami did practically within this book is he pulled from so many different ancient scriptures dealing with Krishna consciousness, so many different scriptures, verses, and texts, and then he put them into this Nectar devotion. So I thought we could just read from the introduction, and then we could discuss. And some of this may seem a little esoteric, or maybe some may be unfamiliar with some of the terms and technical points here, but I'll try to make it relevant to everybody. I'll try my best to do that. But before we get into the introduction, the first point I wanted to make, first few points, is that this particular tradition, the Bhakti tradition, there's many traditions like this within India, not exactly like this, but within India there's so many different traditions. And these particular traditions means they have a different idea of God. They have different conceptions of the path to God. Or sometimes, because there's so many demigods within India, sometimes they worship all the gods as equal, right? Very common. But within some of those traditions of India, there are worshippers of a particular form of God by the name of Vishnu. And Vishnu is a form of God that the followers or the worshippers of Vishnu, they worship him in a very awe and reverential mood, just like that's a common principle found within Western religion or within Christianity or such religions. That there's a conception that, okay, God's the Supreme Father, and there's a lot of awe and reverence there. You can't get too close, like he's your friend or something. There's no cases of that with people getting too close to Vishnu. It would be considered offensive. You go up to Vishnu and, hey, Vishnu, how you doing? Smack him on the shoulder. Nice to see you. People don't do that with Vishnu. But it's very, prayers and offering obeisances. It's very serious. You see these temples within India, for example, South India, or different places. When they're worshiping Vishnu, it's like really serious. A lot of awe and reverence, which is good. So, but these Vishnu worshippers, they're known as Vaishnavas, actually, technically. Vaishnava means worshippers of Vishnu. So then you have another term. I think it's Karshnas, which Karshnas means worshippers of Krishna. Now, Krishna is also another form, because God's unlimited, Krishna, so he could take different forms. So Krishna is, of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original Supreme Personality of God, in which all of the forms of God manifest. But worshippers of Krishna, the threefold bending Krishna, playing a flute with the peacock feather, and you could get really close to Krishna in different relationships. And this is what the Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu is all about. That it's not just on reverence, but you can get really close to Krishna, such as a friend. Like sometimes it's explained that the cowherd boys or the friends of Krishna, they hop on Krishna's back, because Krishna kind of takes them for a ride, around. Or they wrestle with Krishna, or you have Krishna's, the cowherd girls, they're dancing with Krishna. You have to get really close to dance. There's no depictions of Vishnu dancing with. Of course, there's Lakshmi Devi there. But the followers or worshippers of Krishna, they're known as Karshnas. Now, within this particular tradition, Hare Krishna tradition or Bhakti tradition. We're in the temple right now. We are known as Gaudiyas. Gaudiyas, actually. Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but in this particular quote I'm referring to right now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's quote, he's saying that we're referred to as Gaudiyas. Now, Gaudiyas mean, that word means worshippers of Srimati Radharani. Confirmation. Right. I'll take it as a break. Thank you. They're known as, Gaudiyas are known as worshippers of Srimati Radharani. Now, who is Srimati Radharani? We won't get too much in the details of who is Srimati Radharani right now, but Srimati Radharani, if you see here in the middle altar, to the right of Krishna, Krishna's holding the flute there. To the right of Krishna is Srimati Radharani, who is the best devotee of Krishna. So we're known as followers of her because she's the best devotee. And for so many reasons, we're followers of her. And even on some level, we worship Krishna. At least these some of the descriptions that are there. We worship Krishna because it pleases Srimati Radha. She wants us to worship Krishna. So, anyways, so this particular book, Nectar of Devotion, once Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Charya, he was the teacher here. He was in Los Angeles, and one of his disciples, Shilavati, maybe some of the devotees know her or heard of her, but she once went to Srila Prabhupada and said, she mentioned to him that, this Krishna book, because there's a book called Krishna book. You can guess what it's about, right? It's about Krishna. So it's his whole life, born and growing up and the whole thing, whole life. So this Krishna book, it is Krishna, but it's a manifestation of Krishna. So Shilavati, she shared her realization with Prabhupada, and she said, just as Krishna book, it represents Krishna, there's a form of Krishna. So she said, this nectar devotion is a form of Srimati Radharani. And then Prabhupada said, yes, that's a good realization. So you can see how important it is. And also in relation to kirtan, we were just having kirtan, chanting of Krishna's names, Radha and Krishna's names. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, he said that this kirtan represents Krishna, and the speaking about Krishna and about topics about Krishna, that represents Srimati Radharani. So anyways, these are just some points. So yeah, it's a very important book, most important book, The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga. So if you don't have one, you could purchase one. We have some here in the gift shop. We can make arrangements for you to get one. You could order online. You could get it on your Kindle. You could, whatever you want to do. So yeah, we'll just discuss some of the introduction now. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so I'll just read some and then we could discuss. So Prabhupada's introduction to this book. Invoking Auspiciousness. So auspiciousness means it's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for everyone. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called neutrality. So passive adoration means we passively appreciate Krishna. Servitorship, like a servant. Friendship, could have that relationship with Krishna. Parenthood. Conjugal love, comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is a supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis. So these are the cowherd girls, his devotees. Headed by Taraka, Palika, Shama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his lordship's grace be on us, so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the nectar of devotion, impelled by his divine grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, Prabhupada's guru. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling this summary study of Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu. This is a sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. So before we continue, I'll just offer a few prayers. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitarinam Vancha Kapdribishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. So Srila Prabhupada here is, in the introduction, he's describing what the book's about, which are these different relationships with Krishna that one could have. And he is mentioning also how this science of devotion, which was propounded by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the latest incarnation of Krishna, about 500 years ago, in West Bengal. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna coming in the form of a devotee, and specifically in the mood of Srimati Radharani, to experience what it's like to be a devotee, right? For example, in order to really experience parenthood, you could read books about it. You could talk to other parents. You could do so many things, right? Or for example, let's say for a woman. Last time I checked, only women could give birth, but for a woman to give birth. Now, she could talk to other women about it. Oh, well, how was it, holding a baby in your stomach for so many months, and how was the whole thing? And so theoretically, we may have some understanding of that, what it means to give birth to a child or what it means to be a parent, right? But until someone actually becomes a parent, until a woman actually gives birth, they can't really understand. Like my mother, she has so much affection for me. I also have affection for her, but I'm her son, and she knows what it is like. She knows what it's like to be my mother. I don't know that, or I don't know what it's like to be a mother in general. Like recently, she sent me a picture of myself and her. She was, I don't know, however old she was, but she was there, and she was holding me in the form of a baby. So she was holding me there. And then she texted me something that, oh yeah, I was looking through a box of pictures, and I saw this picture, and she said, oh, time went by so quick, and So what she's experiencing, I can't exactly understand, right? Theoretically, I may have some idea. So similarly, just imagine for a moment. Okay, there is a God. There's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And He has all of these different devotees, servants, and different relationships, right? Now, they're all worshiping him in different ways, and right? But he doesn't exactly understand fully because what it means to be a devotee. So therefore, he has to take that position of a devotee. So that's what he does in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He takes the form of a devotee, and specifically the best devotee, Srimati Radharani. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had so many disciples, and one of them was Rupa Goswami, which the Gaudiyas are also known as Rupa Anugas, followers of Rupa Goswami. So he's the author of this book here. So this is what Prabhupada's saying, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he taught the science to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami recorded in this book. So Srila Rupa Goswami began his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master, and he prays that Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas, holy teachers, who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar, and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information, however, that within the ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers, which are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with the other processes which are compared to rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. So the impersonalists, there's a group of personalities called the impersonalists. And their conception of God, or of Krishna, is that he's impersonal, right? Impersonal, impersonalist, right? This makes sense, right? Impersonal. So what does it mean? It means that, like, all of us were persons sitting here in this room, right? And what makes a person a person? Well, one is that we all have forms, right? We all have forms, bodies. That's one thing. Two, we all have qualities, right? We all have different qualities. Oh, he's a very humble person. Oh, she's very charitable, or whatever. We all have different qualities. Three is what else? Name. We have a name, right? We just don't say, hey, guy with the black beanie, right? That's you. No, we say, hey, Dennis, you know. You'd be offended if I... How would you feel, Dennis, if I always said, every time you walked in, because Dennis, he's our good friend here, and he's the brother of Glennis. And Glennis, he lives in the temple. He's one of the brahmacharis, one of the temple devotees. So, and they're twins, right? You're the older one, by a few minutes or something. So if Dennis always walked in the room and I said, hey, guy with the black beanie, or maybe he was wearing a red beanie the next, hey, guy with the red beanie, you know, he'd be offended. What's up with this guy? This guy's a jerk, you know. What's wrong with this guy? Anyways. So we have a name. A person means a name, and it, yeah, and if we try to, if a person tries to dismantle our personhood, we become offended, right? That's what all of these different movements are about. They feel that their personhood is being dismantled, threatened, destroyed. So name, form, qualities, and activities. We all have activities, right? Work here, do this, do that, different activities. So then personalists, they say that God has none of these. Zero, zilch, nada. How do you say it in Hindi? Huh? Shunya. Okay, how do you say in Bengali? Any Bengalis here? Anyways. Any other languages? Some different language besides Hindi? Okay, still the same word. All right, well, anyways, you get the idea. Zilch, zero, nada, shunya, nothing. Nothingness. They say that God has no form. No form, no name, no activities, no qualities. It's just like an impersonal light, They're impersonalists. So these impersonalists, aside from thinking that God's impersonal, they want to merge into that light, and they also want to become God, their conception. So, and they sometimes compare God to the ocean. Yeah, all the rivers, they merge into the ocean. So similarly, all of us souls, we merge into God, right? Now Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada's quoting here, saying that no. It's not just an ocean, there's aquatics in the ocean. And he refers to the devotees as, for whatever reason, sharks. Swimming in that ocean of and specifically it's the ocean of devotional service. Which service is important. Sometimes people think, oh, what is all this service? Why do I have to serve God? Right? Well, you don't have to serve God, or we don't have to serve God. It's a free world. But for those who want to enter into, the spiritual realm or spiritual consciousness, then there is some need to serve God. Or to have a relationship with God, there is a need. Just like within our day-to-day lives, we have friends, we serve them. We have those of devotees who are married, right? There's some minimal expectations for the other person to, sacrifice a little or show a little affection, right? Like, for example, on an anniversary day, we've been together for 10 years, we've been together for 20 years, we've been together for 50 years. I think Devaki Nandan and Santosh, they said they've been together for like 60 years or something like that. Anyways, but you get the idea with anniversaries. It's a big thing for couples. So I've heard, it's a big thing. Now, if the man just kind of like, it's kind of, I forgot, or the woman, she forgot or something. Anyways, I'll use the man in this example. The man, he forgot, He doesn't bring any flowers. He doesn't say, oh, happy anniversary. He doesn't do any of this thing. This person thinks, oh, jeez. Of course, anyways. But the point being is there needs to be some reciprocation. There needs to be some service. That's the basis of relationships. So the impersonalists, they don't understand that because they're trying to mutilate Krishna into a non-person. But the Vaishnavas or the Gaudiyas, they understand that Krishna is a person, therefore they try to serve him. All right, so we'll just continue a few more, a little bit, and then we could open it up for questions or comments. Srila Rupa Goswami prays to his spiritual master, Srila Sanatana Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of devotional service, from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm, and similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord, and who put forward many philosophical theses about the ultimate transcendental realization, cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Ki Jai. The author of Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work, that should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers or great devotees. Like, oh, I'm a great devotee. Shouldn't think like that. Like there was this one person in India, he when my spiritual teacher was there in India for many years, in the early days, in the 70s. This man, he went up to my guru, and he pulled out this very fancy, first of all, within the Vaishnav world, or within the Gaudiya world, within the Bhakti world, devotees give up drinking of tea. Means caffeinated things. Caffeinated. Caffeinated, is that how you say it? Caffeinated, yeah. Coffee, tea, these different things. So, because it's the thing is, the principle behind all this. Like somebody asked me recently, "Oh, well, you say I can't get initiated unless I give up onions and garlic." But that's kind of like prejudice. It's kind of like she should call it racism. It's kind of prejudice. Why can't I get it? Why can't I get initiated? Why can't I accept a guru if I'm doing these things? And I said, well, there's like, in order to have a relationship, like within marriage, for example, there's certain like there's certain rules. It's not that in like traditional marriage, one of the rules is like, well, we're getting married to each other, and that means we're not going to be like going off with a bunch of other people, you know. And that I said these things, it helps the relationship develop, or else it just becomes a mess. So I said, similarly, you are trying to establish a relationship with the guru who connects you to Krishna. So there has to be some rules there that help the relationship remain healthy. And specifically help the consciousness. So I was making the point to her that onions, garlic, caffeine, all these different things, what it does to the mind or to the consciousness is it just stimulates it in a way. Now, of course, people may feel I need that, you know, to get going or to go to work or to do my homework or something like that. But it stimulates the consciousness in such a way as it becomes more difficult to do what? To meditate. On what? On Krishna. That's the only reason. It's not because, you know, we this reason, that reason, so many reasons. I mean, also within the Vaishnava world, they say don't take too much protein. Like, oh, what are we, like anti-protein or something? No, we're not anti-protein. It does something to the conscious, makes it difficult to meditate on chanting the holy names. So whatever we're trying to do is trying to facilitate that. So obviously, I'm bringing up this story right now, and this guy didn't get that, so he didn't understand this point. So he came up to my guru, and he brought out a very fancy case, you know, little, like a silver box, you know, nice designs on it and everything. And then he opened the box, and there were some tulsi leaves. Now tulsi leaves, you know, these are made out of tulsi, the tulsi plant, very important plant within this tradition, spiritual. So now tulsi leaves are offered with all the offerings we make to Krishna. They're enjoyed by Krishna, and then we accept it as prasadam or mercy. So this man, he brought up this very fancy silver box, and he had some dried tulsis in there, right? And then he said, I'm so devotional. I'm so full of bhakti. And he said, every time I take tea, means caffeinated, you know. He said, every time I take tea, you know, I put it there, you know. Anyways. He wasn't understanding. So he was claiming to be a great devotee. So yeah, we shouldn't claim to be a great devotee. That's against the principle. So last paragraph I'll read here. And simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu is divided into 4 parts. All right, thank you, Yogi. Hare Krishna. Smita, Hare Krishna. Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu is divided into 4 parts. Just as the ocean is sometimes divided into 4 parts, and there are different sections within each of these 4 divisions. Originally, in Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu, the ocean is divided like the watery ocean into east, south, west, and north. So the nectar, the devotion of nectar of devotion, this ocean, is divided into 4 parts. while the subsections within these different divisions are called waves. As in the ocean there are also different waves, either on the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, or the northern side, Bhakti-Rasamrta-Sindhu similarly has different waves. In the first part, there are 4 waves. So there's a first part of this book, and there's 4 waves in that first part. Hey, that sounds like me out there. The first part, okay, so these are the 4 waves. The first being a general description of devotional service. Okay, so one wave, it's a general description of devotional service. What is bhakti? What is devotion? What is this whole tradition resting on? Right? Because it's all resting on bhakti. What is that? So that's the first wave. The second wave concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service. So it says, okay, what is devotion? What is bhakti? The second wave describes exactly the rules and regulations. It means those things that help in the realm of bhakti. In the third wave is devotional service and ecstasy. So devotional service or bhakti should produce ecstasy within us. It means spiritual happiness, spiritual bliss. And these are the different stages, right, we go through. In the fourth, this is the fourth wave. The fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. So that's described, love of Krishna. The fourth wave. These will be explicitly described along with their different symptoms. So there's different symptoms that one will experience as described within this book by establishing their relationship with Krishna. And those are ecstatic symptoms. Like, for example, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that came 500 years ago. So this biography is extremely, super, unbelievably unique within the whole world, spiritual world, or within this world, the religious world, you could say. In that it explains Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's great ecstasy in Krishna consciousness, which is just unbelievable. It's the historians, the religionists, they don't know what to make out of it. They say, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was a great, religious reformer, civil rights man in his early days. And then as time passed, he just became a complete madman. And they claim that he developed some disease which, made him crazy pretty much. But we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yeah, he developed this madness, but it was madness in his love for Krishna, crying and anyway, so many different descriptions of his manifestations. It says that his body, his limbs would elongate, become, like his arms would become longer, and it says sometimes he would shrink down look like a pumpkin, crying and, rubbing his face against the wall, and so many things it's not seen. So, of course, these are very high levels of Krishna consciousness, but we could, to some degree, experience those. To a smaller degree, but to a degree. So, yeah, the Nectar Devotion, it's a extremely powerful book, extremely wonderful book, and again, it's the complete science of Bhakti Yoga. So, Prabhupada would say it's a law book of devotion. So for those of us who have embarked on the path of bhakti, which I think is practically everybody here, it's a great book to read. There's seminars on the Nectar Devotion out there. It's just a wonderful book. So we could take advantage of it and make advancement. And I give usually talks here sometimes once a month on Sundays. So the last 11 talks I gave, I was discussing the Nectar of Instruction. So we went through every verse and every purport of the Nectar of Instruction. I summarized a lot of the purports. But so what I'm planning to do is to go through some of the main points within this Nectar of Devotion and the further talks. So, and we'll get an idea of it. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes.
Just a comment. It's just I'm new about 10 months since the pandemic started and just studying over this.
Oh yeah, you could pass her the mic.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I've been studying for about 10 months over the internet with different ISKCON people, and although right away it caught my heart, it was, I don't know, some kind of switch happened like recently, maybe about 3 weeks ago. And although I've never read, I have all the books, but I haven't read all of them, but I haven't read this Nectar of Devotion, but somehow in my home temple, I have that inside the temple with the Gita. I didn't know why. I never even read it yet. But now I think it makes more sense to me. But what you're saying about the bliss, I've been experiencing that for about 3 weeks, and it's been 10 months. I don't know why all of a sudden, but I want to call it a problem, but he's basically like, I look at him like my boyfriend. At first I thought, is this appropriate? So what you said, it helped. And but the problem, this feeling I have is like, he's in my heart, obviously he's everywhere, but I feel like I have to run to him and I don't know where to go, and it makes me really like anxious and sad. And although I'm very happy, that is kind of like a sweet tormenting feeling. And so it kind of, what you were saying makes a little more sense now. But my other comment is, I just ordered one of the Laddu Gopal, baby Krishnas, and I haven't even gotten it yet, but somehow I also formed a parent relationship. Is it possible to have a simultaneous 2 different relationships like that? Because it's just starting. I just started, just daydreaming about him as a baby and talking to him as a baby, but I still have this sort of like the lover feeling too.
Yeah.
But
all right. That's the beauty of questions. Sometimes you don't get certain ones, so I don't think I ever got that one before, but so thank you.
And I constantly question, like, maybe I'm going crazy. All my Facebook friends are just like, I don't know what's happening to you. All my posts are Krishna. All I want to do is think, do Krishna activities, so it makes more sense now.
Yeah. When one experiences some of the happiness of Krishna consciousness, and then they may drastically change and transform in different ways, and people sometimes may think, oh, maybe what's going on with this person? So, but coming in contact with Krishna will change one's life drastically. I've been here in the temple for like 14 years, and I didn't think I was going to stay that long. So many ways it changes, but for the better. It says that there's these different relationships we could have with Krishna. Which Srila Prabhupada states here as neutrality, passive adoration, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, and conjugal love. What you say, boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband, something like that. So these are the different relationships we could have with Krishna. So it does say that if one is in a conjugal relationship with Krishna, the different aspects of the other relationships are actually included in the conjugal relationship. But not completely, obviously. Obviously. Not completely. But generally, but the relationships are really defined in the sense that there's gopis, and that means there's girlfriends of Krishna, right? They're in the conjugal relationship with Krishna. And then there's persons who are in the parent relationship with Krishna, and they're quite different. How they think, how they operate. And so, yeah, there are some different aspects of it, but when it comes down to it, yeah, there's these different relationships, and they're quite defined in these different categories. Just like Krishna, I mean, right, it says Mother Yashoda will put Krishna to rest at night. Now, in so many ways, we don't talk about these things quite super regularly and often in public forums and this and that. But on some occasions, Srila Prabhupada would say a few things in relation to this. So, anyways, so Krishna, or Mother Yashoda, put Krishna to sleep at night, right? And then, what will Krishna do? He sneaks out. So Mother Yashoda, she's putting my boy, put him to rest, and then he sneaks out. And what does he do when he sneaks out? He's dancing with all the gopis, having this big Rasa Leela dance. And then he's out all night, which is pretty impressive, actually. I was just impressed this morning. I was out picking flowers. I was on the altar this morning. I was out picking flowers to help decorate the altar and the deities, and I look across the street, and it was like 6 a.m., and I see this apartment across the street, and there's some people filing out, like 20 people filing out, and I hear loud music going. Wow, this is impressive. They stayed up all night, 6 a.m. I was actually impressed. Well, these people are really enthusiastic, So Krishna, he stays out all night, and he's dancing with the gopis. But Mother Yashoda, his mother, thinks he's sleeping in his bed. So then, it says he sneaks back in to his room, and he lays down. And he acts like he's sleeping. And then Mother Yashoda comes, wakes him up. And So my point being is that the relationship between Mother Yashoda and Krishna is like night and day, in relation to the gopis. So, but to within this world to realize our relationship with Krishna and to act on such things, it's quite advanced. So it's advised that we really slowly move towards that. So, anyways, does anybody have any other? You have? Yes. You could take off your mask if it's easier for you to ask the question.
Oh, sure. I think I should be fine. I was just curious about what you mentioned in regards to being regarded as a particular name. Don't you think that might be a Ptolemization of an old paradigm, not merely a Copernican revolution, and that there's a teleological difference, not to sound like the logicians you spoke of. I want a relationship with Krishna as well. But in that there is of or pertaining to a meaning versus a purpose to regarding someone as by a name. Yeah. And I have to come down in the middle on what you said, which was being offended by someone not using your proper or given name. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind, personally. Mm-hmm. So is being regarded by a name a practical utility? And does it transcend across the animal kingdom, and that other animals give and receive names by humans and vice versa? Mm. Mm-hmm. How does that factor in?
My sister had a dog named Robert. Of course, I know that doesn't answer your question, but well, I mean, there is something to culture, to certain ways of living, certain ways of acting. It's not just all like pointless and useless and doesn't make any sense. There are reasons why this idea of name giving is there. It's a very ancient practice, actually, within the scriptures, bhakti literature. There's name giving there, long time ago. And the name specifically names the best is to have names that mean something, like deep or powerful or beneficial for others. So if a person was to say a particular name, then they get some benefit. They know what it means. It kind of raises their consciousness. For example, you may have the name, or someone may have the name Krishna, and that's beneficial because the person's always saying, "Oh, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," and or Krishna, right? You have a Krishna here. So different names, or you could have names that means, oh, a very noble one, or different names. So, but a lot of the names within India, coming out of India, practically everybody I've spoke to coming from India, they all know the exact meaning of their names, and they all usually mean something significant, powerful, and so that's there. So within this tradition, the idea is to give spiritual names. Like my name is Balarama Dasa. So Balaram means it's the brother of Krishna, the older brother of Krishna. So when people say my name Balarama Dasa, then they think, oh, the older brother of Krishna. Das means servant. I'm the servant of Balaram. Or to breaking that down, Bala means strength, spiritual, and Rama means spiritual happiness. So of course we could just no names, and it's kind of like we could reduce things heavily. We could say, oh, what's the need for architecture? Why can't we just all the building? I mean, this building's very beautiful inside, But we could say, oh, what's the use for all this? Just kind of, just have blank walls and and no names. Reduce the names, and hey, get rid of the fashion industry. It's a big waste of time. And but this variety of architecture, of art, of names, and all these different things, it helps. It could help elevate the consciousness, actually. Like even the architecture in this room, Dravida Prabhu likes to mention, one of our monks here, he says that this just the painting and the architecture, it actually lifts one's consciousness imperceptibly. So that's the idea, that we could get rid of all of it, but what's the use? What's the benefit of that? So therefore, we could utilize all of it, but try to utilize it in a spiritual way. Just like music. We don't say, oh, let's get rid of music. Music is, right, universal language. So therefore we have kirtan. Just chanting with the mridanga, the drum, and the kartal, singing, and so. Anyways, it's just some points. Yes.
You're saying that we can ascribe meaning to things ourselves, essentially?
Or
is that something only through Krishna we can do?
Depends. I mean, depends. We can imagine so many things. We could speculate so many things. There's, like, for example, the purpose of this microphone is to amplify voice. Whoever's speaking, myself or whoever, amplify voice. That microphone too. Now, we could say, oh, well, I don't really like that idea. I'm gonna go get some chana dal. I'm gonna get some tura dal. I'm gonna go get some tomato soup, and I'm gonna use this to stir the soup. So we could try to speculate our own purposes of things. But practically within our experience, okay, the use of kartals is, music, book is to read, microphone. So in so much of our experience, there's a reason, there's a purpose. So, but then when it comes into the realm of metaphysical things and things like that, it could be a little challenging, right? We have different ideas. Or just like the use of the material body. Like what's the purpose of it? Oh, well, my tongue has a desire to taste very nice things, and my belly has a urge to be packed, right? Or my ear has a urge to hear very pleasing things, right? or whatever, on and on and on and on and on, never ending game. But is that okay? That's true. That's the senses. Welcome to the world of the senses. But is that the goal of life? Just to kind of fulfill those urges. Now, some people would say yes, just do that as much as possible, and try not to hurt a few people on the way, but just try to get as much as you could get in sense gratification. But someone may say, well, that's not really the purpose of the body. Okay, yeah, we got to eat, maintain the health, nutrition. Okay, I want to hear beautiful things. So okay, let me spiritualize all this. All right, I want to hear pleasing things, so let me hear a nice kirtan, or I want to read something. Let me read something spiritual. So it's pretty much like two things going on. Some people think it's the material body is just meant for material gratification, right? Just fulfill the desires of the senses completely, or maybe in a what do you call it? Kind of balanced approach or something. And some people think, oh well, we have senses, but actually these senses are meant for spiritual elevation. So we go with the second. That the material senses have material urges, but those aren't supposed to hijack our consciousness. But we could use the senses to elevate ourselves spiritually. That's the idea. So, in that way, anyways, so something about that. So, any last?
I have a question.
Okay, you'll be the last man with the last question. Yes.
Yes, still calling from Portugal. Hare Krishna Prabhu. You said during your class that if we feed ourselves properly, then to think about Krishna in a favorable way becomes easier. So
yes.
My question is, yes. So my question is related to the hearing process.
Yes.
And it is as follows. In what measure hearing mundane music can affect my thinking about Krishna in a favorable way? Is it that it can destroy it?
Okay, thank you for the question. So his question is about, he's from Portugal. His name is Vijay Krishna. I'm calling on Zoom. Okay, that's why you can't see him, but he's there. He's there in Portugal. He could see us. So his question is about mundane music. And does it affect our consciousness negatively? Can it destroy our consciousness? Or when I was first coming to the temple, I was coming to join the temple. I had a Volkswagen bus, brown one. Yeah. Anyways, so I was coming, and then in the back of that bus, I had a huge box full of CDs, and they're all the different types of bands, different types of bands that I liked. So, but when I joined the temple, I wasn't gonna, bring them in. My point was to, bring them to the record shop and get ripped off, get some pennies for them. You know what I mean? That's why I traded them in, and they don't give you much for that. But so, anyways, I did that. But I was able, somehow or other, and obviously by no means I'm claiming perfection in any way, but somehow or other I was able to relinquish my desires, to listen to this music. And still, for years I just don't have a desire to listen. So we're not anti-music, but we're anti-things that bring our consciousness away from Krishna. So the question is, does certain music bring our consciousness away from Krishna? And you could say yes, there is certain music that brings our consciousness away from Krishna, especially within the lyrics world. They're singing about so many things, and it's amazing actually what becomes popular. It's almost scary. It's not almost scary. It is scary actually. What becomes popular. They become very famous talking about. Anyways, we don't have to get into it. but somebody showed me some clip of somebody singing, and so he's a rapper guy. But I don't think I've got anything against rappers. They're spirit souls too, But so yeah, these lyrics could really bring our consciousness far away from Krishna. The problem with lyrics is that they stay there. Like if you see some ad on whatever this media platform, that media platform, it stays there. That's the advertisement trick, stays there. They catch your attention. So yeah, it can disturb our Krishna consciousness, or will, yeah. So that's the idea, that instead of being attracted to mundane music, means mundane lyrics, means it has nothing to do with Krishna. So we could become attracted to Krishna through kirtan, like the chanting here. It's very beautiful, actually. And there's also different forms. I mean, devotees have, hard, what do I say, metal, is it? Can you use it? See that word? Hard metal bands, or Krishna, centered around Krishna. Devotees rap about Krishna. Devotees have, I don't know, maybe jazz Krishna, I'm not sure, but all different types of folk Krishna. I'm sure there's different things out there. But we could try to get attracted to the kirtan, with these instruments, and try to... And getting attracted to kirtan means lending our ears to it regularly. Then we'll get more and more attracted to it. The more we lend our ears to it, the more we'll get attracted to it. And there's all different types of, beautiful singers, wonderful singers out there. So yeah, music can be... Actually, there's a term, we'll just end with this. There's a term in the material sphere, music, dancing, and singing can really distract one, spoil one's spiritual consciousness, right? So the wonderful thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did is he came, and then he said, okay, let's take this singing, let's take this dancing, let's take this, what else? Singing, dancing, musical instruments. Let's take this and we're going to spiritualize it. Therefore, kirtan. We're going to chant Hare Krishna. We're going to dance in ecstasy. We're going to, have a great time like this. And also, the spiritualizing the eating of food too, prasadam, so which we have for everybody here. We have some nice boxes. So, anyways, I hope it's just right here on the patio. So yeah, I hope that answers your question to some degree. Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, we won't
Yes, wonderful answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, we won't be able to give you any prasadam or food, but maybe when you visit here sometime.
No problem. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, so yeah, thank you all very much. Yeah, Hare Krishna.